Have you noticed something strange about us humans? If someone accidentally steps on our shoe, we say, "Hey," with a big smile. But when the same person steps on our self-respect again and again, we also say, "Okay, no problem," with the same smile. One is forgiveness, the other is weakness. Today, and talk about something that many of us do without realizing, smiling through disrespect. The main body story or light humor is a man who went to a restaurant. The waiter treated him rudely through the menu, and Ignan kept smiling. His friend asked, "Why are you smiling?" He said, "I am practicing patience." He replied, "Brother, this is not patience. This is self-destruction with a smile. Patience means waiting in peace, mean losing your dignity. And there's a difference. Many people in life get confused between ego and self-respect. When you stand up for yourself, when you say no, when you decide not to tolerate something, people might accuse you of being egoistic. Second, and think deeply. Ego and self-respect may look similar from the outside. Inside, they're very different realities. Ego says, "I am better than you." Self-respect says, "I am valuable too." Whereas the balance is what divides, the other protects. Imagine this: a man in the office works sincerely, finishes assignments on time, helps his colleagues whenever he can. One day, boss shouts at him in front of the whole team, not because of his mistake, but because the boss had a bad day. Smiles and says nothing. The next day it happens again. Now his colleagues begin to think, "He deserves me, he has no problem with being treated like this." Is slowly. Silent smile are not seen as patience, they are seen as weakness. And here is the danger. What will continue? Now, had that man been egoistic, he might have shouted back, "Who do you think you are?" To me like that would be ego, because the focus is on proving superiority. But had he calmly said, "Sir, I understand you're upset, but I will appreciate is given respectfully," that is self-respect. Till I am better, he is saying I matter too. Ego pushes us down, self-respect lifts yourself up. Self-respect creates healthy boundaries. Think of it like this. When you are driving, ego is when you speed up to overtake the car ahead, to prove you're faster. As you stay in your lane and drive safely, refusing to let anyone push you off the road. Both involve movement. Competition, the other is healthy protection. A very practical daily life example is in friendships. Sometimes in groups of friends, a person becomes the joke target. Others tease, mock. At first, a person laughs along, but deep inside they feel hurt. The group continues. Weeks pass, and soon the disrespect becomes a habit. Why? Kept smiling through it. Self-respect would mean laughing once, but then drawing a line. Hey, I don't like being made fun of all the time. Once in a while is fine, but please respect me. That doesn't break the friendship. It's because friendships without a spoon turn into manipulation. Another example. In families, many parents believers means never speaking up, never expressing feelings, never setting boundaries. A young boy wants to pursue a certain career, but because she loves her family, she smiles and nods to the decision. Later, resentment builds up. Ego means shouting, "But I don't care what you say. I'll do what I want." Self-respect would mean, "I respect your guidance, but I also need to follow what I feel is right for my life. Can bless me." You see the difference? The other builds bridges with dignity. It also reflects in smalls. If you overcommit to everyone just to please them, saying yes to every favor, every demand, you're not practicing respect for yourself. You're saying, "But my time doesn't matter, my health doesn't matter." Only there's not kinds that's self-neglect. Imagine a cup of water poured everyone else without filling. Soon you will be empty. Then you won't even have the strength to serve. True self-respect is refilling up, value, energy, and then giving. Some people confuse arrogance with confidence. Born of self-respect, it is a quiet assurance that by might I can, I will. Arrogance is loud to notice. Confidence is silent, it doesn't need validation. Self-respect fuels confidence because it says, "I don't approve, I'm better than you. I just to be true to myself." Let me share a simple story. A young walking in a marketplace. A group of people laughed him, mocked him for his clothes, his accent, his simplicity. Smiled him gently and walked away. His friend asked, "But why didn't you fight back?" The boy said, "Because opinion does not reduce my value. I know who I am." That self-respect, not reacting with anger, breaking down with hurt, walking with dignity. You see, when we don't respect ourselves, permission to the world to disrespect is like putting a sailor's sign on your dignity. People will bargain it and take for less than it's worth. But when you carry yourself with respect, you are telling the world, "This is my value, it cannot be discounted." So, the next time you find your situation where you're confused, am I being egoistic? Am I practicing self-respect? Ask yourself what question. Am I trying to prove better? Or am I just showing that I matter too? The answer will guide you. It becomes beautiful when we live with He without humiliation, kindness without compromise, without losing our own dignity. That is the balance of true self-respect. And remember, you don't need to look down anyone to stand tall, you just need to stand straight. Tolerated be commissioned. There is a powerful thing in life. Whatever you allow permission for, continue. When someone disrespects you once and you smile it away, they think it's acceptable. And you stay quiet, they assume you are comfortable with it. And soon becomes their habit, not because they are naturally disrespectful, because you intentionally train them. Boundaries don't exist. Think about this in simple daily life. Imagine you lend your to a classmate, don't return it, you stay quiet. Next time they take your notebook too, still. Then slowly they begin to treat all your belongings as their own. Now who is responsible? The one who took advantage, or the who it happened? The answer is both. Because disrespect growingly, we water it with silence. Take an example. In a workplace, there's a team leader who speaks harshly to a member. The first time, the member tells himself it's okay, be the boss was stressed. The second time, he says, I'll ignore it, maybe it will stop. Time, he just smiles to avoid conflict. After a few weeks, not only does the boss continue, colleagues also start treating him casually, without regard. Because when you show people they're okay with being disrespected, they think they have your permission. It's like leaving a house door wide open, being shocked when people walk in freely. Some people confuse tolerance with maturity. Tolerant patience is powerful, but patience in the wrong place becomes poison. Child keeps throwing tantrum, the parents keep giving in, the child learns, but this is how I get what I want. It's no child's fault alone, is the tolerance that the boundary was missing. And boundaries are not cruelty. Clarity, they teach others how to treat us. Take the example of friendships. Friend who always cancels last minute. The first time you say, oh, no problem, things happen. Time you forgive again. The third, fourth, fifth time you keep smiling. Soon takes your time seriously. Why? Because your silence gave permission. If instead you said kindly, I value your time together, you cancel off and it makes me feel unimportant and are you sabry? That way, friend knows you without you losing the friendship. This principle applies in marriage and family relationships as well. Partner keeps making hurtful remarks, thinking it's just a joke. The other partner keeps smiling even though they are hurt inside. Years later, resentment grows into distance. When the disrespect that was tolerated in beginning had now become normal language of interaction. Being stopped with a gentle but firm conversation in the early stage now becomes a man and too heavy to move. When society works this, when wrong practices are tolerated by the masses, they become traditions. When corruption is tolerated, culture. When injustice is tolerated, law. The same principle that applies to individuals applies to nations. When it becomes normal, it is important to note that standing against disrespect does not mean shouting insults. That would be ego. What means is calmly making it clear that but this is not acceptable. If for instance, doodle me, but sir, I tell my friends to stop teasing me. They'll think I'm boring. I told him, but no. You are strong. Their weakness is when you silently suffer and call it friendship. It is when you respect yourself enough to say enough. And when you do that, even if they laugh in the moment, is I respect you more. Think of a rubber band. If you keep stretching it without limit, eventually it snaps. It happens to people who tolerate disrespect too long, they explode, damaging relationships and hurting themselves. Ways to set boundaries from the beginning, gently but clearly. Like telling a colleague, but don't mind jokes, but please keep them respectful. Or telling a sibling, I love spending time with you, but please don't raise your voice at me. Say to prevent big damages. There is a beautiful saying, do we teach people how to treat us by what we allow and what we rinse? If you allow insult, you teach them insult is okay. If you stop hate, teach them respect is necessary. If you rinse appreciation, you teach them kindness is valuable. A small real life story. Ali once shared how the habit of building her in front of guests. The first time she laughed along. The second, she stayed silent, became a pattern. One day, instead of arguing, she calmly told him in private, jokes about me in front of others, it hurts me deeply. I request you not to do it again. From that day, not because she fought, but because she stopped giving silent permission. This is the beauty of boundaries. Break relationships, they protect them. They don't create distance, they create dignity. Tolerated permission, but respect asserted become inspiration. So the next time you are disrespected, don't ask, do they get upset if I speak up? Ask instead. Teaching them about how I deserve to be treated, because one moment of courage can save you from years of silent suffering. Zamrim, nothing making maybe temporary peace, but saying some with kindness and firmness creates lasting respect. Direct relationship. Most people think boundaries create distance. Drawing a line means pushing people away, or that setting limits means being selfish. But the truth is, boundaries and walls that keep people out, they're fences that protect what is valuable inside. Just like a garden windows will be destroyed by wandering animals. A relationship, no boundaries, will eventually be destroyed by misunderstanding or misrespouse. Boundaries don't kill love. Preserve it, think it like this. In a cricket match, there are boundaries marked on the field. Boundaries don't spoil the game, make the game possible. Without them, nobody would know what counts as a six, as out, or what counts as fair play. In the same way, boundaries in relationships tell people what is fair, acceptable, and is out of line. Without them, relationships descend into chaos. American life examples in friendships. You have a friend who keeps calling you at night to talk about their problems. The first time you pick up, you're irritated but still pick up. Soon it becomes a pattern. Now you're exhausted, your sleep is disturbed. Slowly you begin to resent that friend. But is their fault entirely? Not really. You didn't set the boundary. You had gently told them, but please don't call me past 10 p.m. unless it's an emergency. If the friendship weighed healthy, the boundary is not rejection, it is protection for both people. Take marriage an example. Many couples means never saying but no. But love without boundaries leads to exhaustion. Partner keeps giving, and the other keeps taking. The giver eventually burns out, turns into resentment. A wise couple knows some space, or I need rest now. It does not reduce love, truly strengthens it, because love grows best in clarity, not in confusion. Parenting is an area where boundaries protect relationships. If parents never set boundaries for their children grow up speaking the world will always bend to them, and when reality hits, they suffer. On the other hand, balance love with clear to raise children who know respect and responsibility. The inerrant is not cruelty, it is guidance. It protects both the child's future and the parent's sanity. For your workplace, if your boss keeps loading you with extra tasks after office hours, smiling and saying, oh yes, you may look the most obedient employee, but soon your work-life balance is gone, and you feel trapped. The office takes more because you never drew the line. Instead, respectfully, I will complete as possible during office hours, and for the rest I will need more time. To set a boundary that doesn't make you lazy, it makes you professional, because real professionals know their limits. Important emotional conversations. Sometimes people speak harsh words in anger. Keep absorbing them silently, thinking it will pass. You are telling them that it is okay to vent on you. Calmly say, I understand you're upset, but I will not continue this conversation if it turns disrespectful. The relationship. You show the other person that you're willing to talk, but not willing to be hurt. Allows both sides to come back with clarity and care. To set boundaries because they fear losing relationships. But the irony is, relationships without boundaries are what's most likely to be lost. Imagine lending money to a relative repeatedly without setting a limit. One day you say a no, and they feel betrayed. Truth is, the betrayal began when you gave without clarity. If in the beginning you had set a boundary, can I help once, but no relationship will remain intact. Boundaries prevent the buildup of hidden anger. To use for analogy, a river flows freely, but is only because the banks guide it. Without the banks, the roots spread everywhere, fields, and destroy villages. The banks are not enemies of the river, they are its protectors. Same way boundaries in relationships guide the flow of love. Without them, love floods into chaos. Beautiful stream that nourishes both sides. One young lady once told me, I keep saying yes to everyone, my boss, friends, my family, can't want to disappoint them. But now I feel exhausted and nobody even notices my effort. Told her, if you're stretching beyond your limit, people will never know where your limit is. Boundaries are not disappointing others, they are about not disappointing yourself. After she started practicing small boundaries like saying, I can help tomorrow, today she found that people respected her more or less. Boundaries are a form of self-respect, to respect for others. When you set a boundary, you are saying, I want this relationship to last, protect it from resentment. It's like saying to someone, I value you too much to let this behavior ruin us. It's not selfishness that is wisdom. So remember, boundaries don't break relationships. They make relationships stronger. Don't create distance, they create dignity. They don't close hearts, they keep hearts safe. Relationship without boundaries is like a house without doors open to everyone, vulnerable to everything, clear and safe to live in. But a relationship with clear, kind boundaries is like hope, there's love and close with care. Boundaries protect not just individuals, pause between them, and is why learning to say no with respect, or not this way with kindness. Weakness is the strongest way to keep love alive. Is powerful, but silence of repeated disrespect is dangerous. Silence is one of the most powerful tools we human beings have. Calm storms, it prevent necessary fights, and it gives space for reflection. Sometimes, better than words ever could. If someone insults you once, you stay silent. Your silence can show maturity. Are not easily shaken by negativity. It can show that you value peace over argument. Silence is wisdom, but when silence becomes your only response to repeated disrespect, being strength, it becomes surrender. And surrender to disrespect is dangerous. It gives the other person permission to kill you without consequences. Think of a simple example. Go on the street and a stranger shouts something rude. You ignore it and walk on. That's strength. You don't waste your energy on someone who doesn't matter in your life. But if the same person shouts at you every single day, one day others will join in thinking it's acceptable. What started wisdom become weakness. Silence, when overused, becomes a magnet for more harm. In workplaces, this happens all the time. Who needs one employee in front of everyone? The employee stays silent the first time. Maturity doesn't react, he controls his temper. But when it happens again and again, team begins to lose respect for him. They think, but if he doesn't respect himself enough to speak up, Timor's silence instead of protecting him starts destroying his image. Silence in such situations, protecting it erodes. In families, silence can become even more dangerous. Husband has making cruel jokes about her in front of relatives. The first time, silent to avoid embarrassment. The second time, she laughs along to show she is easygoing. But every time it happens, piece of her self-respect dies inside. Silence sends the wrong message, that it's fine, could have been corrected with one honest conversation, become a painful pattern. And that pattern can eat away at love. Bitterness, silence saved the moment, but it destroyed the relationship. Silence is also tricky in friendships. A friend may constantly take advantage, borrow may, and never returning or showing up only when they need something. You never. Your silence says, okay, keep doing this. Then one day, taking him on, you finally explode. The friend is shocked. They say, did you tell me bees? And you realized your silence created the very disrespect you now resent. Example from parenting. Suppose a child talks back rudely to a parent. The parent stays silent thinking, but he's young. The next time the child pushes further, the silence of the parent becomes fuel for the child's behavior. And by the tyrant decides to correct it, the disrespect has already become the child's silence. Being wise ones has now become damaging. We must understand that silence has two faces. Faces dignity, ability to walk away from unnecessary fights. The other face is a refusal to speak up when a line is crossed again and again. Wisdom is knowing which silence to choose. Medicine, the right dose it heals, and the wrong dose it harms. Some people stay silent because they fear conflict. They think speaking destroys relationships. But the irony is, face repeat disrespect is what actually destroys relationships, because it builds resentment inside you. Smired, you bleed inside, and like poison is accumulates slowly until one day closes or breaks the bond completely. Speaking up early with calmness and kindness, temptation is preservation. Imagine a dam holding waters. A small crack appears and you stay silent about it, pretending it's not there. That grows, what a dam bursts, flooding everything. But if you deal with the crack early, damn way, in the silence in the face of a small disrespect may look harmless. But when that disrespect repeats, silence with the crack eventuates the relationship. So how do we handle this? The key is balance. For peace, break silence when it protects dignity. For example, if a stranger on social media insults you, but if your close friend keeps insult you in private or public, silence becomes weakness. When you must speak not with anger but with clarity, you can say palayo bond, but when you speak like this, I request you not to repeat it. Such words may be uncomfortable, but they save years of hidden pain. A man who told me once, sir, I keep quiet as I don't want to lose people. I asked him, being quiet makes you use yourself. The loom fell silent. That is the real danger. Silence can protect others. Cost you your own self-respect, it is too expensive. Because at the end of the day, you must live with yourself. Is gone when used in the right situations. When someone is angry, silence can calm them. On is gossiping, silence can starve the gossip. But when someone repeatedly disrespects you, golden is a chain around your neck, and chains never protect, they only imprison. So remember this. It's a gift, but when it becomes your cage, use silence to rise nonsense, but use your voice to rise above disrespect. Because your dignity is something to be sacrificed for false peace. Peace is not the absence of noise, it is the presence of respect. Prudence is not foolishness, there is a duty in forgiveness. To forgive is to release yourself from the prison of anger. Let of bitterness and forward with peace. Forgiveness is strength, not weakness. But sometimes people misstand forgiveness. They think forgiving someone means tolerate their repeated wrongs. They think forgiveness means giving unlimited chances to be hurt again. That is not forgiveness, that is foolishness. Good wisdom protects your dignity. Imagine this. A man borrows money from you to return a week but doesn't. You forgive him. A few months later he borrows again with the same promise. Give again. Third time, same story. If you keep giving him money while he keeps breaking promises, but that's not forgiveness anymore, it's carelessness with your own respect. Forgiveness means you don't hate him, you don't curse him, carry bitterness in your heart. But wisdom means you also don't him another loan. You release the pain. Take another example in relationships. A young one is constantly insulted by her partner. He says, "Free," and she forgives. Next week happens again. He apologizes and she forgives again. After months, it becomes a cycle. Willers repeat. Forgiveness is noble, but staying in a cycle of repeated harm is not noble, it's harmful. To forgive is to cleanse your heart of anger, but it does not mean you must stay in the fire that keeps burning you. Forgiveness can happen in the heart while distance happens in reality. You can forgive someone and still say, "Continue to hurt me again." That is not cruelty, it is self-care. Parents often teach their children to forgive, but sometimes children misunderstand this by "must never stand up for myself." If, for example, is bullied in school, say, "Oh, just forgive them." The child forgives, but the bullying continues. Alone is enough. The child also learn to report, to defend, to set a boundary. Cleansing the heart, not about accepting disrespect as destiny. Even in the workplace, principle is important. Colleague, you may take credit for ideas. You forgive them the first time because anger won't help. And you repeat and you keep forgiving without addressing it. You are allowing your career to be undermined. Be accompanied by wisdom. I don't hold a grudge, but I need to make sure my contributions are acknowledged. Balance forgiveness, powerful instead of foolish. Think forgiveness as medicine. Medicine heals, but when used correctly. If you keep taking the same medicine without addressing the disease's root, the illness will return. If you keep forgiving without addressing the behavior, the disrespect will return. Forgiveness heals your heart, heals the situation. Both are needed. The story of a saint who was once bit by a scorpion while lifting out of water. The people around asked, "It up, it stings you." The saint replied, "But is the scorpion's nature to sting? But is my nature to help?" But if the saint had kept picking up the same scorpion over and over, letting it sting him repeatedly, we'll call that foolishness. Forgiveness is noble, but protecting yourself is intelligent. Times we've because we love someone. That love is pure, remember, very low without limits becomes slavery. With wisdom becomes self-destruction. To truly love someone means not only to forgive them, teach them respect, because when you forgive without boundaries, you make them comfortable in their mistakes. And when people be comfortable in hurting you, love eventually dies. Here's another perspective. Doesn't mean reconciliation every time. You can forgive someone in your heart, release the anger. Choose not to allow them back into your life. A friend once betrayed her by spreading personal secrets. They gave but to continue the friendship. People said you didn't truly forgive. Yeah, but the truth is, bitterness was gone. But trust once broken was not restored. It always rebuild bridges. Sometimes it simply gives you peace while you walk away from the bridge altogether. Also stand that forgiveness is for our own healing. When you hold on to anger more than the person who hurt you, forgiveness frees your heart from carrying that burden. Your heart does not mean tying yourself again to the same pain. You can forgive a thief who stole from you. Doesn't leaving your door open for them again. Forgiveness releases your anger. Wisdom locks your door. With me, but sir, I keep forgiving my relatives, but they keep using me. Am I wrong to keep forgiving? I told him to forgive them in your heart, but don't dim your energy every time. Forgiveness is divine. Repeating mistake is not divine, it's careless. He realized then that forgiveness is about peace of mind, providing us chances for disrespect. So the true essence of forgiveness is this: you forgive to set yourself free. Chain yourself again. Forgive the insult, but don't allow repeated insults. Forgive the mistake. Repeated opportunities of the same mistake. Forgive the past to protect your future. Because with wisdom, forgiveness is not foolishness. Foolishness is letting the same knife cut you again and again. Forgiveness is removing the knife from your heart, healing the wound, and then learning to hand the knife back to the same person. The balance of heart and head of compassion and clarity is what makes forgiveness divine and dignified. It is commanded. Respect is one of the most misunderstood values in human life. People believe they can demand respect by position, by power, by fear, or by age. They say, "Respect me because I am older," or "You must respect me because I am your boss." First, respect me because I have money. But respect doesn't work that way. It is never demanded, it is commanded. It flows naturally from how you live, how you treat others. Carry yourself. Fear can make people obey you, but only genuine character can make people respect you. About this in yours, a boss can shout, threaten, or impose authority. People may follow orders. Their hearts they don't, so respect him, they fear him. The moment he leaves the room, they laugh, complain, or criticize. Is forced compliance. Now compare this to a leader who listens, who acknowledges, who leads by example. People don't just follow him because they have to, follow him because they want to. So even when he's not present. That is commanded respect born of character and actions, not demands. Difference is visible. A father might say, "I am your parent, so you must respect me." The child may not be forced by words. Respect when the child sees the parent living with integrity, showing care, promises and treating us with kindness. A parent who demands respect may get obedience in the moment. A parent who commands respect through their action with admiration for a lifetime. Let's consider friendships sometimes tries to dominate, saying things like "you should listen to me because I've done more for you." Attempt to demand respect, but over time such relationships weaken because nobody likes being controlled. Friend consistently supports, speaks truth gently, and stands by you in both joy and sorrow. Words respect them without being told. Their behavior commands it. That is always lasts longer than respect is forced. In society too, we see the same pattern. There are people in high positions, celebrities, businessmen who demand respect because of their fame or power. But the moment they fall from power, the so-called respect disappears because it was never real. And then there are others who remain respected even decades after the death because their life commands admiration through service. Integrity. Mahatma Gandhi never demanded respect by force, and with such conviction that the world didn't help but respect him. Now, in daily life, it begins with self-respect. If you don't value yourself, others will not value you either. Someone who constantly insults themselves, lowers themselves, or accepts poor treatment, people around begin to think, but if he doesn't respect himself, why should I respect? His contagious starts within and spreads outward. Treat yourself with dignity, learn how to treat you. Another way respect is commanded is by consistency. People who say what they mean and do what they say. If you make promises and never keep them, people lose respect. Keep showing up late, people lose respect. But if you consistently live by your word, even in small things, to trust you, and trust is the foundation of respect. There's a story of a teacher to his students daily saying, "Respect me because I am your teacher." The students obeyed but never admired him. Another teacher never shouted, explained well, treated his students kindly, and kept high expectations with fairness. Students only listened in class but years later still remembered him with reverence. Why? Cannot be taken, can only be earned. Sometimes in relationships, you demand respect through control. A husband may say, I am the man of the house, you must respect me. A wife may sacrifice so much, you must respect me. But respect does grow by compulsion. It grows by gratitude and fairness. When you treat your spouse with dignity, when you acknowledge their worth, respect flows naturally both ways. Daily example is how we treat people in service roles, waiter, cleaners, drivers, to respect from them but give no in return. They think status is a one-way street, but notice, people you admire in society are those who treat everyone with respect regardless of status. Treat the most ordinary person with extraordinary respect. Others watching you begin to respect you more. It is not shown in how you treat your equals, it is shown how you treat those who can give you nothing in return. Also a misconception that feared is the same as being respected. Whoever raise their voice may think their child respects them, but in reality the child may simply fear punishment. People obey when you are present. Respect makes people honor you even when you are absent. You are long-lasting respects character over control, compassion over compulsion. Command is not about perfection either. Nobody respects someone because they never make mistakes. People respect honesty, accountability. When you make a mistake and admit it, people respect you more, not less. Make mistakes and try to cover them with arrogance. People lose respect us instantly. So the truth is simple. Need to chase respect. You don't need to demand respect. You don't need to force respect. Show a way that respect comes chasing you. Let your actions speak louder than your demands. Be kind, be consistent. Seek and respect will be commanded without a single word. And always remember, command you caricature is permanent. Respect demanded through is temporary, will last even after you are gone. Peace is the moment your power is gone. Live in such a way that people don't respect you, but they have to because they want to. Confusing acceptance with approval. One of the biggest confusions we carry in our relationships is the idea that if we accept someone as they, also of everything they do, but acceptance and approval are not the same. Acceptance is about acknowledging reality, about agreeing with behavior. Acceptance says, I see you as you are without denying or fighting it. Approval says, I agree with your choices and actions and exist separately. You can accept someone fully, love them unconditionally, approve of certain behaviors that hurt you or harm the relationship. Imagine a mother whose son develops bad habits deeply and she accepts him as her child. She never disowns it, but that doesn't mean of his unhealthy lifestyle. She continues to love him, but she also tells him, son, I love you. Can't support his acceptance sense without approval. Doesn't have to be blind, in fact. See clearly, this confusion often leads to suffering in relationships. People keep tolerating disrespect or treat because they think accepts means agreeing to everything. For instance, in marriage your partner raise their voice or use hurtful words. The other partner thinks, but I truly love them as they are. You can accept that your partner has weaknesses, but no, don't approve of the disrespect. Acceptance allows you to see the reality, disapproval allows you to draw the line. Great balance. Let's take friendships. Suppose you have a friend who is always late. That punctuality is not their strength, but acceptance doesn't mean you're operating an extra every time. So, challenge I value our time, but I need you to respect it. In that way, I'm a friend without approving a behavior that disrespects you. When you mix acceptance with blind approval, because when you separate them, respect grows. In the workplace, this distinction is equally important. To accept that each team member has unique strengths and weaknesses, but that does not mean prone opponents or repeated mistakes. No, to embrace diversity while hold clear standards. Acceptance allows the team to feel valued. Proof of negative action ensures growth. If a leader confuses the two, either the team feels unaccepted. The wise leader accepts the person, but not the poor performance. Even in our spiritual life, acceptance means seeing the world as it is, perfect, flawed, and predictable. Approval, however, is different. That suffering exists, but you don't approve cruelty. You may accept that mistakes are human. Prove repeating them carelessly. Acceptance, peace, or disapproval gives direction. Without acceptance, without disapproval, we lose progress. Both are needed for balance. Let's consider parenting again. Teenager home with failing grades. A parent who confuses acceptance with approval may either reject the child completely, saying you are a failure, or blindly approve, saying it's okay, you don't need to improve. Both extremes are harmful. Pride, accept you as my child, I love you no matter what, but I don't approve of your lack of effort and will guide you to do better. The way the child feels secure in love but challenged to grow also applies to ourselves. Self-acceptance is crucial. We must accept our flaws, our past mistakes, our imperfections. Self-esteem means self-approval of destructive habits. If someone says, but this is who I am, I don't need to change. Wisdom is stagnation. Self-acceptance means you acknowledge where you are. Sex means you strive to be better. Accept yourself, yes, but don't approve of habits that harm your health, peace. Daily life gives us countless examples. Think of a neighbor who plays loud music at night, that he has a right to enjoy himself, but you don't approve him disturbing your sleep. So you speak respectfully. I enjoy music, but can you please lower the volume after 8 p.m. That's acceptance of the person. Prove the action and another example. Imagine a colleague who constantly complains. Complaining is part of their personality. But you don't have to approve of sitting for hours listening to negativity. You can say, I understand your but need to focus now. when we confuse acceptance with approval. If we reject people entirely because we don't approve of their actions, we lose love. Approve of everything blindly and name acceptance, we lose respect. The key is balance, accept the person, but don't approve harmful behavior. There's a story, monk and his student. The student asked, "But master, people as they are," the monk replied, "Yes, accept them fully. But don't approve of everything they do." Your clarity, acceptance is about love, approval is about standards. Without love, relationships die. Turns relations decay. So the next time you find yourself torn between acceptance and approval, pause. Yourself can love the person while disapproving of this behavior. The answer will always guide you. Acceptance keeps your heart open, disapproval keeps your dignity intact. Together, create healthy relationships where love isn't in blindness and respect does not mean rejection. Acceptance says, approval says, support you. Wisdom says, I see you, I love you, but I don't support what hurts me or you. If that balance is just attractive, it is transformative. Because the strongest relationships are the where people feel fully accepted for who they are, challenged above their worst behaviors. That is how love grows, respect deepens, and life becomes richer. Bound not walls, they are breached. People hear the word boundaries. They often misunderstand as building walls, people out or being selfish. But boundaries are not walls. Boundaries are bridges that connect people with clarity, dignity, and respect. But what bridge allows connection without confusion? About rejection, they're about direction. They tell others how to love us, how to treat us, and they can go without causing harm. Think about electricity. You plug your phone into a socket, the wires carry energy. Modulation with insulation is the boundary. Without it, the wire would burn, shock, damage everything around it. But with insulations, electricity smoothly, safely. In the same way, need boundaries. Without them, there is chaos. With them, there is harmony. Kindness with having no boundaries. We think that to be for good, we must always say yes, always adjust. Tolerateness without boundaries eventually becomes bitterness. Imagine saying yes to everyone at work. Tasker, staying late every night. At first, people admire your helpfulness. But slowly they stop valuing your time, feel drained, depleted, even resentful. Why? Because you tried to without protecting your limits. Boundaries are not about pushing people away, they are about teaching people how to stay close to you without hurting you. If a friend keeps calling you late at night, disturbing your rest, you don't have to cut them off. We set a boundary, value our friendship, but I need my rest. Can we talk to you on instead? That's not rejection, that's respect for yourself and clarity for them. Friendship does end, it becomes health. Think of a garden. A boundary fence does not mean you hate your neighbors. It means you want to protect your plan, your space, and avoid confusion. It is not to cut off relationships, but to maintain peace. In the same way, in human connections don't mean you stop caring. They mean you want the relationship grow without damage. In families, boundaries are especially important. Sometimes believe that loving their children means controlling every detail of their lives. Much interference suffocates. When a parent says, I love you, but I also trust you to make your decisions, to give space for growth. Similarly, children must also set respectful boundaries with parents. I love your advice. To learn my own experience, these boundaries create bridges of trust and walls of rebellion. At work, push your profession, a boss who keeps messaging employees at midnight. If employees respond every time, begins to expect it. If they set a polite boundary or respond during work hours, they teach the boss to respect their time. It's not arrogance. Clarity. Workplaces thrive when boundaries are respected. Healthy workplaces collapse when boundaries are ignored. In relationships, boundary love in action. A wife who says, I love you, but I will not tolerate shouting. Or a husband who says, care for you, but I need honesty, is not breaking the relationship, they are strengthening it. Prevent from turning to abuse, care into control, and intimacy into suffocation. Sometimes, boundaries, they may call you selfish or distant when you first set limits. But remember, people where from your lack of boundaries will always dislike when you build them. Stand firm. Boundaries for pleasing others, they are for protecting peace. In time, truly you will understand and respect them. We can also see boundaries in nature. Boundaries that cannot cross the shore beyond a limit. The sun has boundaries, it rises and sets on time. The seasons follow boundaries, they don't overlap in chaos. Boundaries are natural, they are the very rhythm of life. Without boundaries, our lives lose rim balance and beauty. And the daily life example, or an airplane. Partake of the crew says, and in case of emergency, on your oxygen first before helping others. That's a boundaries. Cannot give air to others if you are suffocating yourself. Similarly in life, you cannot pour endless if you don't set boundaries to protect your own energy. Self-care is not selfish, it's survival. Maintain that survival gracefully. Boundaries also make forgiveness possible. Suppose someone hurt you deeply. Forgiveness does not mean giving them unlimited access to hurt you again. Forgiveness heals the past, protect the future. You can forgive and still say, I don't want this behavior repeated. Balance, relationships real. There's a story of a wise teacher. His student asked a master, how do I if my heart is open enough to love? The teacher smiled and replied, but if your heart has no boundaries, bleed out on clubs. But if your heart has healthy boundaries, you keep loving for a lifetime. That is the secret. Deserve loyalty. Still remember, boundaries are not about building walls of ego. They're about building bridges of respect. All says to stay away from me. A bridge says and come closer but respectfully. Boundaries don't blow, they protect love. They don't use connection, they deepen it. In every area of life, family, workplace, marriage, and even with yourself, set boundaries with kindness and firmness. You don't need to shout, fight calmly, clearly, and consistently. Over time, really respecting your boundaries is the only way to stay connected with you. And the greatest beauty is this: when you honor your own boundaries, you also inspire others to honor theirs. You create a culture of respect. You show the world that doesn't come from losing yourself, it comes from protecting yourself while giving your best to others. That's why boundaries are no walls, they're the strongest bridges that connect hearts, preserve dignity, our relationship to flourish with clarity and peace. Self-respect sets the tone for how others treat you. Life an interesting law will always treat you the way you show them you are willing to treat it. If you constantly sacrifice your dignity, whistles and allow others to cross your limits, they will assume it is acceptable, not because they are cruel, because you have trained them silently to that way. Self-respect is not arrogance, is not pride, is knocking down on others. Self-respect, a gentle but firm reminder to yourself and the world. Treat it with dignity. Let me share a simple example. Imagine someone buys an expensive new phone. Keep in a proper cover, handle it carefully, and never leave it lying around carelessly. Soon, no one notices they respect their phone. So when someone borrows it, they hold it carefully too. Behavior has already set the tone. Now imagine the opposite. Someone keeps throwing their phone around, hot care and paying for it. When another person borrows it, do you think they will treat it delicately, casually too? Why? Because the owners had to communicate its value. The same applies to our lives. If you don't respect yourself, your time, your words, your energies, others will not respect them either. For instance, keep is interrupting you during work. If you laugh it off every time, you are silently approving behavior. Respectfully say, I value my focus. Can we talk after I finish this task? You have drawn a line. You didn't fight, you didn't insult, but you are clear that your time matters. That is self-respect. In friendships, self-respect is often tested. May a friend who teases you in a way that feels hurtful. If you smile and keep quiet, they'll assume it's okay. The day you calmly say, I know you are joking, but it hurts me, you change the entire dynamic, teaching how you deserve to be treated. That conversation might feel uncomfortable, but in the long run, resilient deepens the friendship. In family too, self-respect plays a huge role. Sometimes parents, siblings, relatives make choices without asking, assuming we should just follow. If you quietly accept everything, through identity. But if you respectfully express your voice, I value your advice. To make this decision, myself setting the tone. They may resist at first. Slowly they realize that you value yourself and they must value you too. Even in romantic relationships, this is the foundation of lasting love. If one partner constantly sacrifices their dignity just to keep peace. For example, if a spouse keeps making sarcastic comments and the other keeps smiling through it, become a habit. But the day the person speaks gently yet firmly, but I love you, but I cannot accept being insulted, begin change. Love without self-respect, dependency. Love with self-respect becomes partnership. Think of a bank. Every day you are disappointed, that balance earns you interest and creates security. Similarly, time you stand up for your self-respect, you make a deposit into the account of your self-worth. Strong on becomes, the less likely people are to overdraft on you. But if you keep withdrawing, keep giving away your dignity without limits, one day you will face bankruptcy, no financial bankruptcy, but emotional bankruptcy. Leo makes this even clearer. Imagine you are standing in a queue at a store. Someone tries to cut in front of you. If stay silent and approve it, you politely say, excuse me, the line starts there. You only protect your place to respect the system. It's a small act of self-respect. Small acts built to have a person others admire. Another example, suppose you're faring during dinner with family. Do you instantly jump the call or do you let it ring and say, call back later? By doing the latter, you show your family their time with is valuable, teaching the quarter that your personal time matters. Self-respect expressed in these little choices of Haitian traditions. The key self-respect is not about ego. Ego says, I am better than you. Self-respect says, I am not less than you. Ego isolates, but self-respect connects, demands respect from others. A person with self-respect respect by living with dignity. Carry yourself with respect. People feel without you saying a word. The way you walk, the way you speak. Treat yourself at all, communicate silently. There's a story of a monk who was insulted by someone in the marketplace. Calm looked at the man and said, you can only insult me if I choose to accept your words. But I choose not to. Not arrogance with self-respect. He didn't allow someone else's behavior to define his worth. That's the essence. Self-respect is about knowing your value independent of others' opinions. Also protects you from being taken advantage of in workplaces. Self-respect often end overworked and underappreciated. They never say no. Self-respect know how to say yes with sincerity and no with clarity. That balance makes them trustworthy and respected. Self-respect is like a mirror. The way you see yourself is reflected back by others. If you see yourself as valuable, too. If you see yourself as disposable, others will treat you that way. It does not give you what you deserve, it gives you demanded through the standard you set. So ask yourself daily, treat me with respect, or am I teaching them to ignore my worth? The answer lies in your actions. Every time you honor your dignity, you set the tone. And once people hear that tone clearly, they will adjust their tune, because at the end of the day, people may love you, admire you, even you, they will only respect you as much as you respect yourself. Courage is saying a no without feeling guilty. One of the hardest things for many of us to do is to say a no. We live in a world where agreeable is praised, where people are saying believe it yes all the time makes you kind, cooperative, loving. But here's the truth, saying a yes is when your heart screams a no is not kindness, it is self-betrayal. Constant self-betrayal is the fastest way to drain your happiness, peace, and even your health. Is not fighting wars or climbing mountains. Courage in daily life, having the strength to say a no when you do without carrying the burden of guilt. Think of this. Battery is 0% and someone asks you to share your charger. You may want to help, but if you give it away, what will you be to anyone then? Sometimes life is the same. If your energy is low, your schedule is full, and your mind is tired, saying yes to another demand is like handing away your charger when you desperately need it. Not in the moment, but leaves you empty afterward. That is why saying a no is not selfish, it is self-preservation. Full daily example. Suppose your colleague asks you to stay late after work to finish their task. Plan with your family. Inside you ought to refuse, but you smile and say you're sure. You stay late. You miss your family deal, drained, and later you resent both your colleague. The next day, us again, and you repeat the cycle. Soon they stop seeing it as a favor, they see it as your duty. But imagine if on the first day you had said, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't today, I have family commitments." You're guilty for a moment, but you save yourself from creating a pattern of exploitation. That one but no act is of courage that per thousand future frustrations. Children often understand this better than adults. A child to eat broccoli will simply say, "No, I don't know why I want it." If they don't overthink, don't worry about being judged. But as we grow up, society conditions us to feel guilty when we say no to friends, to family. We confuse rejection of a request, rejection of a person. But the two are very different. To say no to a request, you are not rejecting the person, as simply protecting your own limits. Realize a house, every time someone makes a request, they are knocking on your door. Be open every single time, even arresting or cleaning. Your house will never feel like yours. Times need to keep the close, not because you hate the visitor, but because you value your home. Saying no is like locking your door when necessary. Doesn't mean you don't care, it means you care about your space. A powerful example comes from health. Imagine someone offers you junk food while you're trying to eat healthy. If you say yes to please them, you harm your own body. But if you say no politely, you're not being rude, you're being responsible. A no is a declaration that your well-being matters. Courage in that moment is choosing yourself without apology. If learning to say no is that it makes your yes far more valuable. If you say yes to everything, your word loses weight. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, and yes only to aligns your lines with, your agreement carries power. With the trust that when you say yes, you truly mean it. Of course, saying no will sometimes upset people. You're selfish and kind or unhelpful. But remember, their disappointment is not your responsibility. Only when you sacrifice yourself for them, that is not love, that is convenience. Respect, accept your no without questioning your worth. One of the most liberating truths is this: obligated to explain every no. A simple respectful no is enough. For instance, when you decline an invitation, don't have to create elaborate excuses. You can simply say, "I'm not available." That's it. Playing often from guilt, but once you let go of the guilt, you discover the power of simplicity. That nature forwards. The ocean says no to crossing its shoreline. The tree says no to growing beyond its roots, to lasting forever. Boundaries into the rhythm of creation. If nature itself has the courage to say no, we fear it saying no is natural. It keeps life in balance. Here's another everyday example. Friend borrows money from you and never returns it. Later they ask again. If you feel uncomfortable but still say yes. But if you courageously say, "I'm sorry, I can't do more until you return the last one," teach them reciprocity. That one no might even help them grow. Times saying no is just for your own good, it's also for the good of others. There's a saying, but when you say yes to others, saying no to yourself, that is the essence. Every yes comes with a hidden no. Yes to working overtime, it'd be saying no to rest. If you say yes to everyone's demands, be saying no to your own dreams. Courage is finding the balance where your yes and your no both serve your highest values. And remember, saying no with guilt is only half courage. True courage is saying no and then resting peacefully. Ponder yourself. The world might not applaud it, but your heart will. And when your heart applauds, approval is needed. So the next time you feel pressured to say yes, pause. Ask yourself, yes, honor me or betray me. If it betrays you, have the courage to say no. That one word can transform your life. Courage is not always about fighting battles outside. It is often about fighting the guilt within. And that battle, you're a life of peace, dignity, and authenticity.